Welcome to the magical world of square-foot gardening, where every inch of your garden space counts. Imagine a garden where every square foot is brimming with life, with a variety of vegetables and herbs, all in a compact space. This is the magic of square-foot gardening. With this method, you divide your gardening area into square-foot sections, each a mini garden of its own. The beauty of this approach is that it allows you to maximize your harvest in the smallest of spaces. Whether you have a tiny balcony or a sprawling backyard, square-foot gardening is your key to a verdant paradise. This method is also incredibly versatile, giving you the freedom to plant a range of crops from juicy tomatoes to aromatic basil, all in one square-foot grid. And the best part? There's less weeding, less watering, and more harvesting. Square-foot gardening is not just a gardening method, it's a lifestyle change that brings you closer to nature. A well-planned garden is the secret to a bountiful harvest. Step 1 in planning your square-foot garden is selecting the perfect location. You want a spot that gets at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight each day. Even the most sun-loving plants need a little shade, so if possible, try to find a location that has some protection during the hottest part of the day. Next, we move on to designing our garden grid. In square-foot gardening, we divide our garden area into square-foot sections. Each square foot will house a different plant, allowing for a diverse and vibrant garden. A 4x4 foot grid is a great place to start, giving you 16 squares to fill with your favorite veggies and herbs. Now, let's talk about choosing your plants. This is where your personal taste comes into play. Love tomatoes? Dedicate a few squares to different varieties. Can't get enough of fresh herbs? Plant a mini herb garden in one corner of your grid. The beauty of square-foot gardening lies in its flexibility. But remember, not all plants play nice together. Some plants thrive in the company of certain others, while some may hinder each other's growth. This is known as companion planting. For example, tomatoes love carrots, but they're not so fond of cabbage. So, when you're designing your grid, keep these companionships in mind. And here's a pro tip. Always consider the height and spread of your plants. You don't want your tiny herbs to be overshadowed by towering sunflowers, right? So, arrange your plants in such a way that the taller ones don't block the sunlight for the smaller ones. And there you have it. You're now ready to plan your own square-foot garden. From selecting the perfect spot, to designing your grid, and choosing your plants, each step is a building block towards your lush, productive garden. Remember, a well-thought-out plan is the first step towards a successful square-foot garden. The soil is the foundation of your garden. It's where your plants get their nutrients from. In square-foot gardening, the soil is more than just dirt. It's a carefully curated mixture designed to give your plants the best possible start. The ideal soil mix for square-foot gardening is a blend of compost, peat moss, and coarse vermiculite. This combination creates a nutrient-rich, well-draining, and loose soil that's perfect for root growth. Let's break it down a bit. Compost is the nutrient powerhouse of your soil mixture. It's rich in organic matter that feeds your plants and helps them grow strong and healthy. A variety of composts from different sources will provide a broad spectrum of nutrients. Peat moss, on the other hand, is all about water. It can absorb and hold a substantial amount of water, releasing it slowly to your plants. This keeps your garden hydrated even in the heat of summer. Now, coarse vermiculite is the ingredient that makes your soil light and airy. It helps to improve aeration and drainage, ensuring that your plant's roots have plenty of room to breathe and grow. Once you've mixed your soil, it's time to fill your square-foot grid. Make sure to fluff up the soil as you fill each square to keep it light and airy. Now let's move on to the planting process. In a square-foot garden, each square is carefully planned to maximize space. Planting is precise, with each seed or seedling placed in a specific spot within the square. For example, in 1 square foot, you could plant 16 radishes, 9 beets, or just 1 tomato plant. The key is to plant just the right amount for each square to prevent overcrowding and ensure each plant has enough space to grow. Remember to be gentle when planting your seeds or seedlings. They're delicate and need to be handled with care. Once they're in the ground, give them a good watering to settle the soil and help them start their journey to becoming a bountiful harvest. With the right soil and careful planting, you're setting your garden up for success. So, roll up your sleeves, it's time to get your hands dirty and start your square-foot gardening adventure. Maintaining your garden is as important as setting it up. It's the key to ensuring your plants are healthy and your harvest is bountiful. So, let's dive into some essential maintenance tips for your square-foot garden. First up, watering. It's essential, but it's also a balancing act. Too much water and your plants could drown, too little, and they could dehydrate. Aim for a consistent, moderate watering schedule. A good rule of thumb is to water when the top inch of soil is dry. A simple finger test can help you determine this. But remember, the amount of water will vary depending on the weather and the type of plants you have. Next, weeding. Weeds are like uninvited guests at a party. They take up space and consume nutrients meant for your plants. The best way to deal with weeds is to tackle them early and often. Small young weeds are easier to pull out than larger established ones. And don't forget, always pull weeds out by the roots to prevent them from growing back. Now let's talk about harvesting. Knowing when to harvest can be just as important as knowing how to plant. Most vegetables are at their best when they're young and tender. Lettuce, for instance, can be harvested as soon as it's large enough to eat. Root vegetables like carrots and radishes are ready when their tops peek out from the soil. And remember, regular harvesting encourages more production. Imagine a time-lapse video of a garden. On one side, plants are left to their own devices, on the other, they're given proper care. The difference is striking. The neglected plants struggle to grow while the cared-for plants flourish, providing a plentiful harvest. It's a visual testament to the power of good maintenance. Maintenance might seem like a chore, but it's a labor of love. It's the time you spend with your plants, nurturing them from seedlings into full-grown providers of fresh, homegrown produce. And the reward? A thriving garden and a bountiful harvest. With these maintenance tips, you can keep your garden thriving and maximize your harvest. Remember, a well-maintained garden is a productive garden, so roll up your sleeves, head out to your square-foot garden, and let's get to work. Meet some of the enthusiasts who have reaped the benefits of square-foot gardening. They come from all walks of life, but they all share a common love for nurturing the earth and reaping its abundant rewards. First, let's hear from Margaret, a retiree from Oregon. She was looking for a hobby that didn't require much physical strain, and square-foot gardening was her answer. She started with a small 4x4 grid, and within weeks, she was harvesting fresh tomatoes, lettuce, and radishes. Margaret says, "It's given me a sense of accomplishment and a connection to nature that I've never felt before." Next, we have the story of the Johnson family from Texas. With 3 young kids, they wanted an activity that could involve the whole family. Their square-foot garden not only provides them with fresh produce but also teaches their children about responsibility and the cycle of life. In the words of the Johnsons, it's a family bonding experience that also brings fresh veggies to our table. Then there's Carlos from New York, who lives in a high-rise apartment. He turned his small balcony into a square-foot garden. Carlos is now enjoying a variety of herbs and even some strawberries. He tells us, "It's amazing to see how much you can grow in such a small space. It's my little green oasis in the concrete jungle." Last but certainly not least, meet Emily, a seasoned gardener from Colorado. She switched to square-foot gardening to maximize her yield in a limited space. Emily says, "I've doubled my output since I started square-foot gardening. It's efficient, it's fun, and it's so rewarding." These success stories prove that square-foot gardening is a game changer. From balconies to backyards, this method allows anyone, anywhere, to enjoy the pleasures and benefits of gardening. So, why not give it a try? You might just find yourself with a green thumb and a garden full of fresh, homegrown produce. Now that you've learned about square-foot gardening, it's time to start your own garden. Picture this: your very own lush green oasis, right in your backyard. Each square foot bursting with life, from juicy tomatoes to crisp lettuce, all harvested from the sweat of your brow. Imagine the satisfaction of plucking fresh vegetables, knowing that you nurtured them from a tiny seed to a bountiful harvest. The joy of sharing your homegrown produce with family and friends. The peace that comes with tending to your garden 1 square foot at a time, but it's more than just a garden, it's a journey, an adventure, a testament to your dedication and hard work. And the best part? You're not alone. You're joining a community of millions of square-foot gardeners around the world, all connected by the simple joy of growing their own food. So what are you waiting for? Start your square-foot garden today and transform your space into a harvest haven.